Hi, my name is Christ Kennedy, and today I'm going to talk to you about a project called the GUI FileDialog Designer, which helps you to design file dialogues that are really cool. And well, let's get right to it.
This is the GUI FileDialog app that we're running right now. This is what it looks like from the start, from normally. Okay, so this is the default file dialog, and it looks like crap because it's just the cheap version of what we don't want. So like the original native to language is far better than this, and there's no point in keeping this. So the whole point of this is so that we can make really cool looking file dialogues like this GUI tar. So this is my GUI tar. So this is the GUI tar. That's the GUI tar. So this is a working file dialog that you can load files in and figure out what you want. That's the filter. You can go up and down in the tree, and so click that. So then here I got the LED, and I double click on that and open that. That opened that directory. You could see it opened it over here as well. When I double this here, that gets opened, and so forth. And so that's the GUI tar, because GUI, right? So show you another one. This here itself is another GUI interface. File dialog, resources. Why not the guinea pig? So here's the guinea pig. This here is a guinea pig because sometimes you want a guinea pig. And let's have another look. Another one. Guinea hen. We're on a theme, so that's the guinea hen. Pretty cool, right? Guinea hen. And one more. The turtle, because why not? We have a turtle. This is the turtle. So this is working file dialog. It's just a cool looking way to have your file dialog. Normally the file dialog will draw itself before appearing, but since we're, like if you're wondering why it's being drawn so like while we're seeing it, because it's already, we're already seeing it when it loads a new file, new appearance. So like to avoid that, you don't do that normally. It's just the this interface. I'll get to that later. So this is the turtle, okay, and we're going to remake this turtle in a minute. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so the first thing we got to do is we have to load up an image. So we look at the image that we want to use. So this is the image that I sourced from the internet. I just got this, I downloaded this on the internet. And you can see that we want to get rid of these pixels here, all this gray stuff, this checker stuff, because we want everything in this area to be a uniform color, all right? And that's going to be difficult to do because it's checkered and it's a problem. So what we do is we go to, we're just going to kill this and by saving that, go to the force color 2.0. So this is an app that I wrote because I needed to alter images and use them for my sprite editor. You might have read some of the sprite editor, well, the sprite editor article that I wrote a few months ago now. And it's a really cool article about, it's a really cool tool, the sprite editor, but it needs a lot of images that have a uniform background. So I made this thing here. This tool here is available along with the download for the file editor. And what we do here is we sample the background color that we're trying to get rid of. This gray stuff here, I just clicked on sample and then I clicked on the gray, and it tells me these are 238. Unfortunately, they're not all 238, and even if they were all uniformly 238, which they're not, it'd still be a problem because we have the white stuff. It's checkered, so we have to get it into every pixel here and clean it all up by hand, and Microsoft's MS Paint doesn't do that, so it's a problem. So we know they're 238. So the way this works is we check on this set button here. We set this value by collectively all of them, red, green, and blue, to 30. So it's plus 30. So now when we click go, this app will modify every pixel in the bitmap so that every one of them is has the value of 30 added to its red, green, and blue. So when the sum of its current value plus the 30 that you're adding to it exceeds the limit of a byte, which is one byte, 8-bit byte, which maximum is 0 to 255. When it exceeds that 255 value, then that value is then set to 255. So they're all uniform 255. Everything that was close to white or gray or off gray or something off white is now uniformly gray. Okay, so now that's what we got. But now you're going to tell me, well, it also affected the green and the brown and the blue. Oh yeah, it did, but that's okay because we're going to uncheck this and then we're going to do that again, and now we're going to subtract 30, and everything that was under 225 is back to exactly the way it was. So now we have the uniform color all around the outside. So we can look at this here. And so from here, we could do is we could set the color to some blue, let's say, or like a light shade of blue. All right. So we set the color to blue. This is the color blue here. We just check this same color here. We click on the fill seed. It's not the most user-friendly app, I recognize. I never planned on publishing this thing. It's really handy for the projects that I made, and I needed it, so I made it, and this is what it is. And so now we know that all these pixels are exactly the same color, which is what we need because we're going to make one color transparent when we put it on the file GUI. So we make this transparent color, and so that's what we needed to do. Now you're going to see there's little bits around the trim here that didn't quite get changed. We could redo this thing here, this part here, the setting thing, the forcing the pixels, adding 30 to each one, but adding like 50 instead of 30, and try to get more of these, but it's kind of a hassle. So what we're going to do instead, we're going to uncheck this same color, check the edge only. All right, we're going to sample with the eyedropper the blue color. All right, then we're going to set a background color. Clear that and set a background color to black. All right. So now we have boundary color blue, color that we want to add black, and we're using edge only. So we click on fill seed, click anywhere inside here, and what it does is instead of well, you didn't see it, but it happened now. Instead of changing the color of every pixel in a normal flood fill that you'd see in Microsoft MS Paint, for example, that we just looked at a minute ago, what it does is it does the same flood fill, breadth first search algorithm through the whole thing from the point of the seed outwards until it finds the boundary that we're looking for. And then at that boundary, it colors every pixel that touches another pixel of the color of the boundary, the color that we want, which is black. So now all that trim that was like white, kind of not exactly the color that we wanted, is black. So it just looks cleaner. So then what we do is we save this to the file, and now we're all set. All right. So, back in a minute. All right, so here we are. This is the default file dialog. What we're going to do is we're going to reset everything by clicking new, and then we're going to select the image that we've got prepared. So click on resources, or just find the image on your directory and select it. Now, when we've selected the image, that image, because this checkbox is not set, the image will resize itself to fit inside the size of the form right now. This is the size of the form. It's not going to resize the form or alter the form, but it's going to resize the image. The image will be resized in order to fit inside the form as it is. So when we click on this here, this tells the app that what we want is for the form to resize itself. So the form then resizes itself to contain the image. So this is the original image of the turtle. Now what we want to do is make this form transparent. So we want to make the blue into a transparent color. To do that, we can use this transparent color button. The left side, this is actually two buttons in one, because the left side of the button uses the color dialog box. And we could click on a color and assume it's probably something close to what we need, but we need it to be exactly the color that we want. And that may not always be useful to have, might not always be good to have a file dialog or a color dialog for that matter. So what we do is, instead of the pencil on the left side of the button, we go to the right side of the button, use the eyedropper to sample the color that we want. So we click there, then we go to the form and we click on the color that we want to make transparent. And by clicking it, now we've made the color blue transparent, and so that's our image. Now this is what it looks like, which is pretty cool, right? So there we are. So now at this point, we've got the regions over here, and we've got all these different regions, right? So we've got the form, the color that we want, and it's looking pretty cool, but we still got a bit of work to do. So we have a list of the different regions over here, okay? And these are the different regions that we have available to us, and we have to edit and change all these things. So, okay, all right. So this is the title here. This is the title box here. This is the current directory. This is the directory tree. This is the contents. This is the user interface label, text box, filter, confirm, and cancel buttons. And when you click on the region itself, it will select that region in this list, which will then demonstrate, or show rather, display all the information relevant to that region. So this is the directory tree, this portion over here. This is the size, the location. It's 5 to the right and 48 down from the top left of the screen. And that's currently what it looks like. So what we're going to do as a demonstration how to use these, we're going to take the confirm button and position it over here. We'll put it over on top of this spot here, okay? So to do that, what we do is we use these numeric interface, this numeric interface. You can type a value in. Here I'm going to type the value 1 and make this here 150 pixels wide. That's the 150 right here. It's the size of the user input confirm button, okay? So it's probably not what we want. So I'm going to make that 50 again, so we can use the keyboard to change the values, or we can use the mouse wheel and change the values like that. Now we can, with the cursor where it's at the far right like that, we change the value of the location's X component by a single pixel. So you can see it's sliding over to the right like that. That's a little slow. So if we move the cursor over to the left like that, we can use the mouse wheel and alter the value by tens, 82, 92, 602, and so forth. All right. When we move the cursor over here, we alter it by hundreds. And over here, it'll do 1,000. So move it off screen by like 200, and now we can't see it anymore. So now it's over here. I'm going to put it where I want it to be, over that spot, and change the Y. It's right there. Okay, that's about where I want to put it. Maybe a little bit further to the right. So here, that's where it is. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to play around with the fore color and the back color of this confirm button. So this confirm button here, All right. We're going to change the, say we're going to change the back color. So we have the same thing as over here, the transparent, where we have the pencil and the eyedropper. We have the same thing over here, pencil, eyedropper for both the back color and the forecolor. So we're going to use a dialog box and change the back color to red and the forecolor to, say, green. And we have green on red like that. When the mouse goes over it, it's red on green. So that's what that looks like. That's pretty cool, but I'm not sure I'm happy with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the blend option here. Blend makes the background color transparent. When you make the background color transparent, all the pixels of that single transparent color disappear. But what happens here is the button needs to be drawn before it is made transparent. So it draws a green rectangle, or it draws a red rectangle, the color of the background. It draws the red rectangle and it draws the text in green. So we got green on top of red, which is all fine and good, being the holidays and everything. Whatever time of year, it's great. Green on red, it's awesome. But what happens is the pixels, where the image where you have pixels that are adjacent to each other, like a red pixel is adjacent to a green pixel, those pixels will be altered to blend together. So they're not quite green and they're not quite red. So when we make the background red transparent, the red background is made transparent, then those pixels that are neither the foreground color nor the background color are not made transparent, but they're kind of reddish green. And so they stay on the screen, and you have this reddish residue from the color of the background, even though the background is made transparent. So you can see this when we make it blue. You'll see instead of a red tint, you get a blue tint. And it's the same for every color. You can't really do anything about it. So that's a bit of a bother. So what we're going to do is we're going to sample the background color, and that issue disappears. So then make the foreground color black, and that there is our button. So move it over where it goes. You can see that it actually is not just the green of the background, but actually blends into the background like that. So that's pretty cool. All right then, so what we're going to do now is that demonstrates how we can adjust each and every one of these regions. We can change these regions all using these controls like we just did for the confirm button. But there's another way, there's a better way. We can take the GUI approach. This is a graphical user interface that allows us to graphically move stuff around much more easily and resize things much more quickly than we can with these interfaces. This is good for maybe fine-tuning, and this is where we do the coloring and the blending and all that. But by going to the GUI interface, we get this GUI interface here, and we can do much more quickly. So I'm going to take, when we click on a region here, it'll light up over here, so it tells us what we're dealing with. So I'm going to take this cancel button, move it over next to the confirm button, like this. And then I'm going to take this form over here and stick it over here. That's the contents region. I'm going to stick that over there and do this relatively quickly. So this is a lot faster than the other using the mouse wheel. This is a lot faster. It just goes quicker. So I'll get this done. It'll take me like 90 seconds or so. It's just like really quickly. And then once we're there, we can adjust everything that needs to be adjusted, and it'll be over quick and painless. So that's pretty good. And almost done. Stick this over here. All right. So this interface here is not quite as smooth as it could be, but it's quick and painless, and about done with this project. So that's it. So here we are. That's the GUI, and we get back here. Okay, so that's what that looks like, which is pretty cool. Right now we're going to look at this title box here, and we are going to make it blend into the background. We're going to change the font. The font dialog, you've probably seen these before. Pretty simple, basic font dialog. Go with the Times, bold, 18, why not? That's pretty cool. Maybe a bit bigger. Why not? And so 24 instead of 18. That's the file dialog box. We're going to sample the background, and that's what that looks like. And now make the foreground blue so that it looks familiar to. That doesn't really work. I'll make the foreground white, and if anybody wants to grab it and move it around, they can do that. So that's how that works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go one by one through each of these regions, like take this one here and do the same thing every one of them. Blend, capture, background, set a foreground, make it white, and there we go. Maybe change the font a little bit, make it a little bit bigger, and that's the current directory. So I'm going to do the same thing for each one of these really quickly, and just say that I was working on different projects before getting onto this one, and at one point I was working on something called the PTMC, which is the Post-Terran Mining Corporation. It's a derivative of a really cool game that that I want to remake, and remake in 2D. So it's a 3D fighter shooter game called Descent, and I'm making a 2D version. You might ask, why would you do that? Well, because the 2D version that I want to make involves the entire solar system. So the entire solar system would be like a trade wars that you used to have back in the 80s there, if you remember that. It's like a multiplayer game that you just traded around the star system, and you gained money and stuff, and you went around all over these different planets and everything. You had to defend and fight, and it was kind of pretty cool. And so I want to make something similar, but the entire solar system in a fighter game. And I'm working by myself, and it's very slow, and it takes a long time. And in any case, I was working on that project, and it's really cool because it's the entire solar system, right? You're flying around planet to planet, moon to moon. You're killing these robots and everything. And then at one point, the my antivirus software decided that my game was a virus, so that was a problem, and I couldn't edit or work on it anymore. So I started working on my sprite editor, and then I got distracted, made a puzzler game, and so then I got distracted and started doing this. And I've been starting new projects all the time. And I thought this project would only take me a week and a half, and it's been like a month and a half, and I'm fed up. And so I got to finish this, and move on. And it's pretty good. I'm really pleased with it. It's really good, but I got to move on. So there's a bunch of features that could be implemented that are not implemented, and I promise to consider maybe perhaps in the future sometime I will do more, but this is it for now, and I'm just this is where it's going to be. So this is where we're going to save this turtle. Okay, because that was relatively painless. Like I went through all of that. This is what it looks like now. This is basically what we were looking at before. And now I'll show you how to incorporate it into your own project. So here we are in the Visual Studio C# 2019. We're going to create a new project. Create the Windows forms, call it demo file dialog. Put it where I will, create, and so it creates this form, and then we get to this part here. And so here, what we got to do, the only thing you need to do here is add an existing item in the project directory. So we go and you take the file that you downloaded, the file dialog GUI.cs, so you add that. So now that file appears here. because it's included in your project. And then you go to your project's properties, you select the resources, you click on add an existing file, and now we got to go find that turtle GUI. So it's right here. That's the file we just saved 5 minutes ago, and we've added it here. So now here we go file dialog. Can't spell. File dialog, this one here. Okay. We'll go with the open file dialog. OFD equals new. Just you instantiate a file dialog like you would. Like that. It's the same thing, except we're not going to use that. So now we're going to load through the properties. So the properties, resources, the turtle. Alternately, what you could do, because there is an overload, you could use the file directory. So you could, if you know exactly where it is, use the file. So file dialog turtle.fd GUI happens to be on my directory. So that would work as well, but we're just going to do it this way. And then we say if file dialog show dialog equals okay, like you would any other file dialog, then we'll show the results message box show OFD file like that. Else message box show cancelled like this. All right. So then when we launch this, it'll compile and throw it on the screen. And here's our file dialog. So from here, you can just download whatever you like. There's my bugs and the resources for the bugs, and that's the file dialog. So bugs. There we go. So we click on this here, open that, and that's the file we just downloaded, or we just opened. So that's that. I'm gonna fix whatever problems occur as I use it. I'll find problems and I'll fix it and update the article to reflect the changes I've made. Right now I've tested it, it's working, and I'm fed up with it, so I'm just putting it out there. You can do what you want with it, and that's it.
So that's how you make a file dialog, and you can make them any way you want, in any shape or size, and do whatever you want with them. And so that's it. Thanks.